Hey, Megan, and welcome to Voice Notes from the Organized Homeschool. I'm so excited to have you here and excited to jump right in. So, let's kick things off by you introducing yourself. You can share a little bit about you, your background, your homeschool, how old your children are, how long you've been homeschooling, whatever you want to share to just get the ball rolling, and then we'll take it from there. I can't wait. Thanks.
Hi, Erica. So nice to speak with you. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this. This is really, oh, that sounds so silly. But I'm Megan. I'm a stay-at-home mom to two. My son is almost 4. My daughter is almost 1. They're a week apart birthday-wise, so it's going to be exciting here in the next couple of weeks. So I'm very new to our homeschooling journey, but it's something that my husband and I talked about doing for our family before we even got married. And just the way that's looked for our family has definitely changed over the last couple of years. A little bit about me, I don't know. I was a city girl, but I now live more in the countryside, which is very different for me compared to my upbringing. But it's been really nice to just raise our kids somewhere where there's a lot of space and we don't have acres upon acres or anything, but it's definitely our houses are not packed on top of each other like how I grew up in the city. So that's something about us. We're living a slower paced life. And yeah, my approach to homeschooling, growing up, I was the kid who I was babysitting at 9. I got my babysitter's license and I was always around kids. And I think I babysat different families and nannied all the way through past college. Even when I was working professional careers, I really just stopped after I got married. So I've always really been around young children and tutored, and it's been something that's my heart's been called to do for a long time. But now with my own family. So, like I said, I'm home with 2, and I liked in your notes how you mentioned there might be some background sounds, which I can't get away from, but I'll do my best to kind of keep it fast and not have too much of a distraction behind me. My son was just wondering, oh, who are you speaking with? And okay, my husband took my son out to splash in a puddle, so hopefully I have 2 seconds here. Okay, so background on homeschooling. I don't know if you even asked me why we did this, but I was researching, of course, Montessori, Waldorf, secular homeschooling. If you would have asked me 5 years ago what my homeschooling plan would have been, it would have been to just recreate the classroom setting, a typical classroom setting here at home. And that's where I was going. But I had a friend of a friend who I knew was homeschooling their children. And I reached out and I said, hey, what do I do? How do I start? This is really daunting and it's different for anyone in my close relationships, very different. And she gave me great advice, which was to say my son was only about 18 months old at the time. And she said, this right now, the next few years is your time for research. Figure out what's going to work for you, what makes sense. She gave me a few good books to read, recommendations that really changed my way of thinking. And that was just super helpful. And I stumbled onto where we're at now.
Hey Megan, your son's voice is so cute. Thank you for sharing a little bit about you and about where you're at, your age of your kids, and all of that. Such great advice to spend that time researching. I would love to know what you did during that research, but before you get there, can you tell me why you were deciding to homeschool in the first place? Like, why not send your kids to school? What's the purpose or importance or motivation for you all, you and your husband, your family, your kids, for homeschooling? Let's start there, and then I want to get into how's the last year look. Did you technically homeschool for preschool in the last year? So we'll go there. But first, just tell us your why.
Oof. Okay. Why homeschooling? Oh my gosh, so many reasons. I'm sure every family that does choose to homeschool has a laundry list of reasons, but our initial thoughts were obviously the quality of education. We've been seeing a decline in like all the statistics of where children are at and the education that they're receiving and academics. They're falling behind on reading and math and whatnot. And just thought that I have a slight background in education and just figured, you know what, I'm probably just as capable, if not more so, than other teachers out there that are tasked with maintaining just large classrooms, especially where we're at. These classrooms are so large with all of these children. It's a big task, and I totally empathize with that. So the quality of education, wanted to make sure that it's going to be immersive and whatnot, but also then that goes into the environment. We want to have a safe space for learning, and the idea of, hey, let's put your 3, 4, 5-year-old behind the desk for 8 hours where they're not supposed to really be speaking out of turn or have to ask permission to use the restroom, and all of those things just felt really stifling to us and didn't feel like a very cohesive or nurturing way and environment for them to be learning from. Then thinking, it's like going even further back, I have really bad trauma from being bullied very harshly in school. Some really awful stories, but just so much pressure academically, and then to have peers that are just not kind. I was hoping to shelter my kids from that as much as possible. I want to be able to be there. And if things ever got tough, safety is a big one for us. It's just such a sad time that we live in, but there are so many school shootings, and these children they're prepared as best as they can be. It's just not the kind of risk that we wanted to be taking for our kids. And so without outward harm, internal harm at the schools, there are predators, there are groomers, and again, just fostering that safety net. I wanted to be as sheltering and protective as I can of my children as long as they're small, and if they're not at an age of being able to completely articulate what's going on around them or their own feelings or their own wants, or get themselves to a safe place physically on their own. Just did not feel like a good risk for us to put them in a big building and say, see you later, good luck, we'll see you when we see you. Just did not sit right on my heart and my husband's heart. And yeah, just really wanted to foster that like family foundation. I want our kids to feel like our family is what comes first. You have that really strong build of family trust, and to nurture that. And I'm probably saying that word so many times, but I just want to make sure that family is first. And once you have that foundation, then everything else can branch off. But in these early years, we think that's so important to spend as much time together as a family if we can. My husband works quite a bit in order for us to do this, for us to homeschool, and for me to stay at home with our children. And so he's not there. It's not like he works from home where we're both here equal amounts of time, but at least one parent is consistently with our children basically at all times. Yeah, those are the main whys, I think. We're also Catholic, so having a strong family base is important to us. Again, wanted to make sure that we could foster that and encourage that at home as much as we can, and without having to spend the money at a private school or whatnot. Again, just to have everybody at home together and figure things out along the way. Hope that answers the question of why.
Yes, totally helped me understand your why better. And I went down the list as you were saying them, and I agree with basically all of what you said. And what I appreciate about when you were sharing your why is that, at least from my interpretation of your sharing, is like the confidence in which you shared your why, and specifically the portion about sheltering your children. Because I think, at least when I was growing up, there was like this stereotype of homeschooling kids are sheltered, like their families don't want them to interact with society, and like they're keeping them. And it was viewed as negative, and oh, they're going to be weird and they're not going to socialize and all of this. And as I reflect on my why, and my husband and I talk about things, is like, yeah, there's all that is true. There's things we do want to shelter our son from, especially like you said, when they're young. It's like, why do I need to send my 5-year-old to school so that he can be operating like a 10-year-old so much? And for me, my son is Black, obviously, and there's like statistics and information about how society oftentimes, just looking at a Black boy, sees them as multiple years older than they really are. So I have that on top of I think that society just wants kids of any race to grow up faster. And I'm like, I want my child to be a kid. I don't want him to be worried about bullying. And I'm sorry that happened to you. I don't want to say, I'm obviously not going to compare your trauma to other trauma that's out there right now, but like, I'm just saying it's bad now with social media and with phones. I was a principal, and I will tell you the majority of disciplinary meetings I sat in, social media or group chats, something to do with the cell phone was brought up. That's not even in school. Things are happening after school and being brought into the school building. It's just a lot right now. It is a whole lot. And I definitely want to shelter my kids from it. And like you said, I want to be there, right? I want to be there to be able to help him through building relationships, through learning how to communicate with kids, things he likes or doesn't like in a kind, respectful way. If there is an issue or something, because humans are going to be humans, children are going to be children. And there was times when at co-op another kid pushed my kid, and we got to I got to be there to help him navigate that situation, versus like you said, a teacher who has 25 kids and really can't spend the time one-on-one with every child that something happens to help them figure out how to work through that. So I 100% agree. 100% agree. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit so we know your why. Can you talk to us about, or talk to me rather, talk to me about what your typical day looks like? What curriculum are you using? What, if there is a model that you feel like you're subscribed to more than others with your homeschooling? Tell us what like a day in the life looks like for your homeschool. If there's no typical day, maybe just like a week overview, whatever feels good. But I'd love to just like see what you all have going on. And I know it's summer now, but maybe you're still homeschooling through the summer. But when you're in regular school, what does it look like?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I just relate to all of that so much. It's just, I feel like as a parent, it's my job to shelter, protect, but also guide. Like you were saying, it's my job to help my kids navigate through the world. And just because the world, it can be really intense and scary and demanding and, negative, doesn't mean it has to be that way for them when they're small. Doesn't mean that I can't harm them with as much as preparation as I can. We're all just doing what we think is best for our kids. And I don't know, I think a slow pace and the sheltering is just really important. I agree. Yeah, what does a typical day look like for us? So we adhere to the Waldorf education method. Now, granted, my son is almost 4. In a few weeks, he'll be 4, and my daughter will be 1. So they're really young, but it's very alternative, not to make things too complicated. But a year ago, when my son was 3, and my daughter was just born, I was staying up late and I was making my own worksheets. He had a little school journal, tracing lines, coloring, letter recognition, all of the kind of basic preschool type academic activities. And he loved it. He was thriving. I was really proud to share what he was accomplishing with my family. And he still gets a kick out of those types of sheets that I make for him. But from last year to now, we've really immersed ourselves in the Waldorf type of method. So what's really stressed there, my son is 4, so I'm not a major expert or anything, but it's all about learning through play and essentially just letting children be children. There's really no stress on true academics until really age 7. And even when that does come, like letters and numbers, it's all done through stories and artistic detail. So, like having a story about a snake, and that will be the S and things like that. So, a lot of it is play, but you know what? Like, we live in a secular world. As much as I want to be some fairy godmother, I am not that way every day or all hours of the day. So typically what our day looks is we wake up in the morning, we get together. Honestly, my son comes into bed with me and brings books and we'll either do some reading and we'll do some storytelling or some play. He's into Scooby-Doo, so we'll pretend like we're having a mystery, but all within the confines of my bed. And then we'll get ready, we'll make breakfast together. Either I'll read a story while we're having breakfast, or he'll use his Yodel player and listen to a story that we'll talk about, or music or whatever. And then I like to get out in the mornings. So whether that be a homeschool co-op that we meet up with once a week, or a parent-child class that we take at the Waldorf school nearby us, or we go to the library or to the park or just outside or to the farmer's market, even grocery shopping, we go out, we get out of the house for the most part in the mornings. And that just helps me feel like, one, I've done more. It helps like chip away at the time of the day. And then also it gets us out and gets him practicing kind of real life skills. And then we have more and more to talk about, and he takes things in. He'll look at what's going on outside and he'll find a bug. And then all of a sudden he'll just get hooked on it and say, okay, hey, I saw that bee, and that bee touches that flower, and what happens after? And then we'll get into a conversation about pollination or something. And then we'll go to the library and we'll get books on that subject and make that a centered focus for at least the week. So similar to that, I just follow his lead of what he's interested in, and then I find ways to steadily bring it about throughout the day and spark his interest, and we just have discussions and stories about those topics. So a lot of play. We're not zero screen time. So sometimes my daughter's napping. I feel like I need to tune out for a sec myself. I'll pop in an audiobook in my earbud. My son will watch 30 to 60 minutes of a show, something like low stim, or we'll have quiet time together and he'll, like I said, like his Yoda player, or he'll look at his own books and we'll just reset. He helps me in the kitchen. We're always baking something throughout the week, whether that be some bread or some sort of pie or something. He'll get into his head of, let's go to the farmer's market and oh, look, there's blueberries. I think that must mean, Mom, that we need to make blueberry muffins. And so we'll do stuff like that together, and he'll help with chores and whatnot. And so try to get things accomplished while also just taking time here and there, minutes by minute, to play and to read. And sometimes we sit and rot too. It's always a little bit different. But this fall, I am going to be following a curriculum through the company Wondergarden. I'm not sure if you've heard of them before. I can send you a link to their Instagram. It's essentially Waldorf-inspired. It's a parent-child type class. There's a handwork activity like making your own Play-Doh or learning to knit, really basic for even young kids to be able to do. There's story time, circle time, which is usually some sort of rhythmic song, and there incorporates some sort of like body movement, and just really nice and at peace and get your body outside for a period of time as well. So that'll help me in the starting in the fall with coming up with activities, because there's plenty of times where my brain just goes, wait, how do I play? What do I do? I have no, my imagination just seems to have gone out the window because my brain is going on a million miles an hour of the to-do list of things to do in the house and the grocery list, and are you out of clothes that fit you and things like that. So I'm hoping that will help me stick to some sort of nice rhythm in our daily household. And yeah, so we'll see how that goes. But I hope that answers that question of what do we do during the day? Because every day looks different, but also feels similar. We keep to a similar rhythm of timing at the very least.
Okay, this was so helpful. And I know that there are moms out here who are going to be like, yes, that is the type of homeschool I want to build, or I have to. Yes, so good. I love this idea of following his lead. And like it just comes down to listening, right? Being able to listen to our kids, so good. I know you mentioned low stim shows. Can you share a couple examples that you have your son watch? One, because I feel like I need some more, as my son is currently watching Star Wars. So that's where we're at. Clearly dead. inspired that. But it's like the old school Star Wars though, and I've never seen the movie. I literally, it could be horrible that he's watching this right now and I have no idea. But I'm like, at least it's like not all this animation. Anyways, okay, thank you for sharing the curriculum. I definitely feel that. I'm like, it gives you some activities. Last year, were you planning? Do you have a paper pencil planner, a Google Doc planner? Do you plan in any way? And if not, totally no judgment. I'm just curious. And if you are, I'd love to hear. Or are you thinking about what planning might look like this year now that you're using a curriculum? I'd love to hear if you have planned what that looks like, if you're planning to plan, what you think that will look like in this current upcoming school year.
Oh, yes. So, okay, first I'll tackle the low STEM shows. So, we do watch a good variety of things. I would love to say I'm like, no screen time ever, but it's just not the reality. I grew up watching movies a lot and PBS shows, and it's just one of those things that was like really natural for my upbringing. And so it feels okay as long as I don't know, I approve of what we're seeing. I definitely, if it's something new, I scope it out at night on my own first. Same with some books. We'll be at the library and my son will pick something out. And I never say no to a book he chooses because I want to encourage that, that desire to learn and read and all of that. But then I'll read it myself just in case there's some topic in there that doesn't seem age appropriate, or if there's like friends fighting or something. I don't want to introduce certain topics that maybe aren't relevant to him yet or to his little world yet. So some of that can get a little tricky. But for shows, a lot of what we watch is on Amazon Prime. I tend to find that's where a lot of what I would call like safe shows for our family are. Movies. We really like Shaun the Sheep. That is from the creators of Wallace and Gromit. So there's really no dialogue. It's all like sound effects and claymation. We love that so much. I can't believe how captivating it is for him and for us. We really like it, my husband and I too. That's a good one. We like If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. My son calls it Mouse. We watch Tumbleweed, and I'm trying to think of another good one. Any of the old 90s shows from PBS, so like The Big Comfy Couch, Wild Kratts, like Zaboomafoo, when we're learning about animals. But I tend to do the old school ones with, if I can get away from animation, I will, just because why not? Those are probably the main ones that we have on rotation. But we also, when we go to the library, we have an old DVD player. So we treat library day as like a blockbuster night too. So he gets to pick out 2 or 3 movies that we watch too. So there's always a DVD selection that he can put on. Even Bluey. We like Bluey, which actually turns out, I think that Bluey goes to a Waldorf school, which is really interesting. So anyways, yeah, so he gets to pick out some DVDs that are fun, some old school movies, and then those are the main shows we see on Amazon Prime. But if you're looking on Netflix, we also like Puff and Rock a lot, and Sea of Love is another one that we watch, and the Old School Magic School Bus. But Star Wars, like I grew up watching Star Wars. It's super fun. I'm not sure how old your son is, but it could be somewhat age appropriate. We were maybe 2 years ago, we were watching like all of the Disney movies and things that I watched as a kid, and we're like Incredibles, but there's a lot of violence, a lot of fighting, and good guys versus bad guys. And we didn't really like that. Not that my son ever got really aggressive, but we just thought, ooh, it just struck a chord with us that it seemed like something we didn't want to make normal for him. If we introduce like villains or bad guys, it's through fairy tales. So that's our MO. So like ogres are not so great. Sometimes witches can be not so great and things like that. And yeah, a year ago, 2 years ago, I definitely thought I would be doing more secular homeschooling worksheets, having him read early. I was an early reader, so I always thought I'm going to be drilling phonics as soon as I can, and was really stressing the typical academic life. And now I really want to take things more laid back, definitely following his lead. Something sparks his interest, we dive into it, and he really absorbs so much of what we're talking about and learning. And for example, he's really into animals, and he has been for honestly the last 2 years. And he has so many interesting animal facts that he just has locked in his little brain. And we were talking just the other day about mammals versus other animals and what makes them different. And is a tiger a mammal and things like that. And that's not a typical early childhood Waldorf approach to learning. Like I said, they don't really talk about stressing academics, but I'm not going to shy away from typical questions. I'm not, I guess, 100% in that world, but I was discussing the differences with him, and he said, okay, so mammals have babies and other animals have eggs, and then the babies grow in the eggs. So, do you have eggs inside you? Is that where your babies are? And I was floored. I'm like, I can't believe you made that connection that mammals and humans are mammals and that we have I was just very, wow. We've been slowly diving into this topic over the last week or so, and you just really made that connection on your own. And it made me feel like, okay, we're doing this. Things are clicking, and he's learning in so many ways that are just maybe not typical. And like you said, listening, right? Just indulging in their interests can really lead to so much. And I'm learning so much myself. I love it. I love the idea of homeschooling being an opportunity for me to learn more and relearn things and re-dive into subjects and things like that. So really excited about it, which leads to, yeah, curriculum. What is that going to be like? So the first 2 years, I think I was really looking at what does that look like for me? What kind of homeschooling do I want to do? Why do I feel so convicted in this? And now that I'm going to be starting this daily sort of rhythm, I'm going to see how that feels and how that sits with our family time and our dynamic here in our household. And after a few months, I think if that really jives well, and my goal is to spend this next year from when he's 4 to 5 researching different like kindergarten or early childhood curriculums. Again, Waldorf really doesn't stress any sort of academics until age 7, which feels so late because my son is almost 4. It feels, what do you mean? 3 years? 3 years of not quote unquote learning? That seems so strange. So maybe even just to scratch my own itch, I need to be doing more research to feel strong in our choices. But that's my goal, is to figure that out. I'd like to have a somewhat of a plan for my day, for our week, even if that just means what are we baking this week? And then how am I going to introduce that? And what is that? Why are we choosing those things? And things like that. So just figuring out what topics I can maybe stress on, and then that might feel, I don't know, just make me feel more secure in what I'm doing. But then when I get into those kind of that circulatory thought of, okay, why am I not doing this? Is he going to be behind on things? Is it going to feel too boring for him or slow? Or I don't know, like it doesn't sit right. Any influence outside, be a family influence, they're going to say he needs to be reading by now and this and that. Spending the next year to figure out what is it that's really going to sit well with us. And I think it's going to be a dedicated rhythm, continuing with our typical like story time, something tactile, something that we are making food wise. Like we make most of our meals together in the home. We are not like sitting in luxury over here. So we cook a lot, almost everything from scratch and at home if we can. So we plan on those kinds of things. But then maybe as his questioning gets more advanced and his interests get more advanced, then I'll take it up a notch with our book learning maybe, or just figure that part out. I don't really have a plan. Maybe I'll reach back out to you in 6 months and see what we're doing, or if I've scrapped everything and given up or whatever. But it just feels good. And anytime I get too bogged down by the stress of it and feeling like I'm not doing enough or I'm not offering enough learning opportunities for him, I just sit back and I tell myself, why do I feel like I'm in a rat race? And what am I racing towards? I'm very blessed with 2 healthy children. Doesn't seem to have any sort of learning disability or hindrance there. I'm very lucky for that. I know that's not every family's setup or what everyone is facing, but so he will read, like he'll get there. He'll catch up with math or whatever it could be and the bigger, hard hitting topics. So there's really no race that we need to be entering. Like we're running forward, and for what? I really like when I remind myself to, okay, take a breath and take a step back, because he's really happy and he feels really proud of what he's remembering and learning and sharing with others of what he's learned. And so I just try to remind myself that things are going okay when I feel like maybe I'm not doing enough, because I don't think that feeling's ever going to go away. For any parent who's wanting the best for their kid, we're always going to say, could we be doing more? Should we be doing more? Is this right? Does this make sense? Is this too hippy dippy? Am I getting totally weird? For now, I say he's very well mannered. He's just the sweetest boy. He's very social. I know that's probably a topic you talk about with lots of people. Is your kid going to be social at all? And he's just a joy, and we enjoy what we're doing together and how we're learning. And so that's more for my own mindset. I have to like decompress at the end of the day and say, we'll be all right. I'll figure out that curriculum when I need to and when I get there.
Okay, first of all, just addressing the last thing you said, I should probably put this in the like text message that I send before we get started. I'm not editing these much at all, unless there's like really bad audio. I'll work through that. But like, I really want this to be what it is. And I want people to hear the realness of like our wheels spinning, the conversation going in a million different directions. So that's at least for me, when I'm voice messaging my friends, that's what it's like. We're just like going off. And this is how I feel. Like, you all are becoming my friends right now. I love all of this. The entire 12 minutes of what you just said was so good. And I'm grateful. And I know that everyone who gets to listen to it will be grateful too, and will get a lot out of it, especially those who are in a similar situation to you in terms of age-wise and thinking, relating to you in the way in which you are approaching your homeschool. No apologies, no editing. We're moving forward, and it's gold, everything you shared. So first of all, thank you for all of the recommendations for shows. I'm definitely going to go back and write them down and start looking them up, especially because I have a 1-year-old. So at some point he's going to want to watch something. And so it'll be fun to see what he goes towards versus what my 5-year-old went towards. Speaking of 5-year-old, he is 5 watching Star Wars. That's probably not appropriate. And I will say he is very mature. So we have conversations about, this is not real. This is like this. So we talk about it, and he's like very analytical. So that makes me feel a little bit more comfort in him watching it. Like, he doesn't take it seriously, and he knows he's playing when he's like talking about it. So anyway, okay. So all this sounds so good. I love like how much grace you're giving yourself. And I know at times you probably feel like you're being hard on yourself, because like you said, we all are as parents. We all feel like we should be doing more. It's hard not to feel that way, because no matter it, just as humans, like there's some form of comparing yourself to other people, even if it's like a little bit of subconscious. And when you're online, it's hard to not be like, oh, that looked like so much fun. I want to do an activity like that. Or, oh, I haven't done a field trip in 3 weeks. And like that great field trip they just went on. It's hard not to relate. And in some of relating is comparison. But it sounds like even with that, like you're doing a great job of just being like, this feels good to us. So I'm going to go with it. And I know there's so much positive happening. And I see that in my son's behavior, his personality, his mood, all of that, his emotion. So I'm loving this, and I'm glad that you are like embodying that confidence to keep going in the direction that feels good for you. I wanted to share something my husband always says, because I am the one that's, oh my gosh, he needs to be reading. Like, he's 5, Erica, relax. And my husband always says to me, when he is an adult and he's living his amazing life, whatever it will be, when he is a grown up, it is not going to matter if he learned to read at 4 or 6 or 8. Like, it's actually not going to matter. So he's going to learn to read. To your point, we are super, super lucky to have a son, and even our youngest son, who doesn't appear to have any disabilities or learning delays or anything like that. So he will learn to read. And so it's okay if, right now he's reading at a kindergarten level when he's in kindergarten. Like, that is okay. Or even if he's not reading yet and he gets there in a year or two. Now, as an educator, I do know that there's a point where it statistically, it has been shown to be harder for a child to learn to read and get up to on grade level. Obviously, the other piece is like this idea of on grade level is a social construct. So what is that? So there's that argument. If they're 8, 9, it's harder to fill those gaps. So definitely will always have that in the back of my mind. But if he's 7 or 8 and he's starting to read, that's okay. And the other thing that I continuously come back to is sometimes kids just need time. Like I've seen this over and over as a former principal and a teacher. It can honestly go both ways. But I've seen a lot of kids who will go to winter break, go to summer break, and they come back and they have just something has just like clicked in their brain that like they are ready to take off. And so I just remind myself of that when I feel like I'm pressuring him. I'm like, if you just relax a little, he will probably take off at some point if you just give him the space to be like, okay, now I'm ready to read, and boom, he's reading. Yes, I think for you, things are definitely going good. It sounds like they're going great. So definitely give yourself all that credit and love. And I'm like, just, I'm sorry, because like we're just meeting in this conversation, but I'm proud of you. And you are serving as inspiration for me to give myself grace and just be grateful and appreciative of what I have. Okay. You talked about not running the rat race, and it sounds like living a slow life and being present and all that. How do you do that? You're on TikTok, you're on social media, and I know I don't want to blame social media on everything, but it makes things harder, these phones we have in our hands. So like, how do you stay present? How do you like take things slow and not feel like you have to be go all the time or rushing to some made up finish line? What's some like strategies you have? Some is you're already dropping gems. What are some like questions you're asking yourself or like mindsets you work to embody to stay present and not so feel like you have to be rushing towards things? Because I can tell you're doing that, and I love that. And I know so many of us are like super ambitious and we feel like we have to. I don't know. It's just like tightening my fist. Like we just feel really, oh, we gotta go versus let's just relax a little and be present and be living a little bit of a slower life. So I love if there's anything that comes to mind when you think about
Oh my gosh, it is so tricky to navigate these kids shows. We keep them tethered to the truth, but we also want them to stretch their imagination. There's so many options out there. There's thousands and thousands of shows and movies and things that we've seen from our childhood that we want to recreate for them. And the new things that are coming out that we have to like rewatch and see. And oh my gosh, it's so tricky. So I'm sure you're doing a wonderful job. And your son sounds like it's just something fun for him to watch Star Wars. So that can be awesome. Like I geek out over it too. So I think it'll be okay, but it is tricky to navigate. I'm going to try to answer or respond to some of these. My son is awake, but he's playing in his bed. He's pretending to be the Kratz brothers from sibling with my husband before he leaves for work. And my daughter's next to me. More background noise, I'm sure. Your earlier comments. So I compare, oh my gosh, so much. I mean, it's hard. It's like you said, it's so hard not to. Everyone else who seems to be doing it like so easily or just the way that you want to be doing it. And you're like, how come I'm not at that level? Or how I even think about TikToks and like, how do these women set up their phones to film themselves? They wake up and then they get themselves out of bed and then they're getting themselves ready, but they're also like setting up their phone in between that. I'm like, how? Where's your kid hanging off of you or asking you to play? Or I don't understand how it works. It's really hard to not compare. But when I feel like I'm starting to spiral, I just try to remind myself that we're doing enough for now. Maybe an aesthetic or some style of parenting is a goal of mine, and maybe I can get there eventually. I don't want to turn my back on what I've built so far or abandon it just because it's not like the ideal. So just that reminder, hey, you're inching towards this bigger goal, and that's okay. You don't have to scrap everything in your house to rebuild the playroom or our kitchen tables covered in stickers. Is that awesome? No, it doesn't look the prettiest, but you know what? That's okay for right now. It's not the end of the world. those little reminders can help so much. And then when you were talking about, sorry, we're still continuing to talk about like the rat race, right? I hate to say, oh, we're delaying it because it's just postponed, right? Like, delayed makes it sound like there's something wrong or I don't know, but this is a super intentional approach. I feel like it leads them to a hunger for learning. When you're drilling them, it can dampen their spirit and calling it work or whatever. Like you have to get this work done and then you can go outside and play. It can discourage them and it makes it a chore. And then they're not very excited for it. They see school is work. And I don't know that I need to introduce that concept of work to my 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old in that context of learning. If they have the room to just open their minds as young children, when they are developed and prepared to incorporate more academics, then they're excited as well as ready. For example, I really stressed phonetic sounds of the alphabet versus just like the straight up ABCs because I wanted to encourage speech development first. Like I said, if you would have asked me 4 or 5 years ago, my approach, it would have been very different. But in practicing with my growing son, I was like, he's not a dog. I'm not doing tricks. I'm not like, hey, watch him say his ABCs perfectly. I'm more like, he can pronounce every sound and he can articulate. And then that helped me see, hey, there's maybe some holes missing. Maybe we need to do some speech therapy to help him connect the sounds in his full words or whatever. They figure out what's working for your kids. And again, going slow helps you identify those holes sometimes too. I'm certainly not going to stop my kids from learning to read or whatever. It's just not something that I'm stressing. So I guess I focus more on reading because I'm not a math person. We know our numbers, but I'm definitely going to be leaning on some sort of curriculum when it comes to teaching math. I'm pretty good at math, but it's not something I enjoy. Reading is my thing. But I read a lot myself. So beyond just encouraging my son to directly to read library visits, bedtime stories, whatever, he's seeing me physically read books every day. And hopefully he'll think it's cool or it'll just be a normal thing, right? Like we just always have books. We've got books in the car, on the couch, in the room. I don't care where they are in the house. Erica, I just wanted to pause and say thank you so much for this. I'm just so grateful that you're doing this podcast and talking with me and other parents. We're really in it, right? With small children and trying to, I don't know, just like we're newbies at navigating the homeschool world. So it's really exciting to share experiences and overall word dump with someone who's in it with me. So thank you so much. You're being so sweet and so kind on this and patient. So I really appreciate you. Okay, how to be present. Ooh, sheesh. Truly during any household task, like I'm doing dishes or cooking or whatever, I have one earbud in and I'm listening to an audiobook. I don't know what that says. I'm half in, half out, but I can really navigate. I can multitask like most parents can. Yes. Can I come out in just 1 moment? Okay, thanks. I'm finishing up my research. I feel like interruptions. My son is, like I said, he's pretending to be the Kraft brothers from Zibim with Chris Martin, and now you're the person helping. Anyways, yeah. So I would say I'm like half present in certain tasks. I always have one ear open, but if I don't do a little bit for myself, like I think I'll go a little bit nuts. I won't have as much patience. I heard someone say it's similar to the airplane, right? Like you put on your mask first in emergency, but that way you can help others. But same thing with at home. Like sometimes I am certainly guilty of this, but we're not taking care of ourselves. We're not eating and making sure that my kids have this wonderful, nourished 3 meals a day and all the snacks. And then I'm like, oh, I've had maybe a protein smoothie today, something to get myself by. So I'm not like bogged down with hunger pains, but that's not necessarily serving right. So there are times I have to remind myself, you need to do this to keep your sanity for a sec. And so that way I can have patience and my energy and my attention set for later. Okay. Okay. Yeah, my son isn't super great at independent play, which makes things a little bit tricky. And my daughter is with me 24/7. She's either in a carrier or we're co-sleeping at night. So I get drained and I get overtouched and stressed and all the things. It's I'm by no means am I a perfect parent. I have my time where I'm like, oh gosh, mommy needs, or I need a little bit of space. Like, I just, come on, I need a little bit of space right now. I will be with you in a moment. Or I'm going to prioritize learning and play and all that before kind of everything else. But stuff has to get done. And I have to do these dishes. So I'm unavailable for 10 minutes, or I will get to that when this task is done. And it's really hard, but teaching them that they need to wait is okay. They're not waiting all day, they're not neglected. It's one of those things. I'm hoping that I'm building some grit and endurance in them. But really, I just pay attention to our daily rhythms, and I know that I am our clock, right? That mental load is loading. So I have a timestamp plan for our mornings, basically, or the first half of our day, pretty much right when we wake up. I can feel when my personal window for being able to shower or get ready with a calm baby in a high chair versus when she is too tired and will be unhappy to not be in my arms for 5 minutes. And I can tell when that window is shrinking or like when that's going to be. I plan that out in my head. I don't express that to everyone in my household, but I'm like, okay, I know that this 5 minute timestamp, if we want to leave here, we need to be ready to get in the car 10 minutes prior, which means that I have to push my son to go potty 10 minutes before that. It might even take 10 minutes to get them both dressed, which means that my window for getting dressed and all of those things. So really just having that mental schedule, even if it's just a matter of like, how do we get dressed and prepared and breakfast on the table and myself ready, that is what helps the scheduling. And I try not to, like I said, not to push that schedule onto the other members of my family because they're not going to be as in it. My children certainly not, but they're not going to have all the little details that are going on in my head. So as long as I have it and I can keep that ship moving from my direction, then that's what seems to be helpful. But beyond that, I try to be on my phone if my son is like watching a show or at night after he's in bed. And occasionally, of course, I check. Oh my gosh, I'm addicted just like any other person. So I definitely do occasional checks on my phone throughout the day. But my like living room setup, my nursing chair is slightly behind and to the side of our couch. So I'm not in like peripheral vision view of my son. I'm not in his peripheral if he's watching something. So I can see him and he's not watching me. So if I'm ever on my phone, I feel like I'm like cheating and it's in high school, checking my phone with my hand like down to the side, but I'm on the side where I don't make it boom right in his face. If my phone is in front of him, I'm on the phone with someone speaking with someone, or he knows I'm looking something up or taking a picture or whatnot. So I just try to make sure it's not always right there, boom in his face. And if he ever talks to me or wants to say something, I physically put it down. So I give him my undivided attention. Oh, I say yes to playing in the car. We're playing, he's really into Scooby Doo lately. And so he wants to play Scooby Doo. And do I want to play 24/7? No. Would I like to just sit quietly myself and not think of anything for a 10-minute car ride? Absolutely. But I just remind myself, like, okay, I don't really want to do this, but it'll bring him so much joy. And I never know what's going to end up locking in as a core memory for him throughout the day. So I should probably be saying yes. And he comes up with it's a small inside the car mystery game, like what's missing, and multiple voices and characters. And I just realized all the story building that he's doing is so fun and beautiful for him. So I say yes to a lot of car play. And I watch the shows with him. I pay attention, even if I'm half listening to a book or something, I see what's going on and I'll have a reaction to an emotional scene or something. I'll gasp and then he turns around, oh, hey, you're watching, just showing him that I'm present and I'm in it with him and then I'm not checked out. And I don't know, as far as like encouragement goes, I feel like community is a big deal. I have spent the last year really fostering friendships with like-minded parents, and that helps. Oh my goodness, does that help? It's like a reset for me when we go to our co-op or our parent-child class at the Waldorf school. It's just, I am reinvigorated to keep going. And you're seeing that other families are doing it. They have the same goals, or hey, someone else is struggling. And then you are a beacon for them to reach out to and someone that they can speak with. And just building that community is so key. I don't have a village. I'm not sure about you, Erica, but I don't have people here 24/7. I don't have daily help with my children or care. I do have family that comes. My parents are wonderful and they come to visit with my kids often, but it's not the same. You don't have people day in, day out helping you with waking up, brushing teeth, going to bed, and all that stuff. So having a friendship, fostering these friendships really helps. So that way you have some sort of outlet to discuss what's going on and encouragement to keep moving forward. And I took a note, make sure I finish. What else did I say here? Oh, and oh my gosh, is there any greater dopamine hit than when you're out in public and getting compliments on your kids? Oh my God. When we're out and about and someone's, wow, what manners on this kid, or gosh, that it's so creative what he's doing. He's playing and his imagination is just soaring. And if people witness that, when they're witnessing your family and your children, and then they feel compelled to give you a compliment, oof, that feels so good. That definitely makes me feel, okay, thank you for that validation. I really needed it. And it just makes you feel like, oh gosh, thank you very much for that. And now that just gave me a drop of energy in my bucket so I can continue throughout my day. And I just live for it.
Those moments definitely are like so good and like definitely do make you feel so, so good. But yes, I agree with so much of what you said. And like this idea of, oh, first I want to say I asked you the question because I know it seems as if from our conversation so far that you are really conscious and thoughtful about being present. And from your answers, I think that's true. And not because I was like, oh, she's perfect. She's doing this perfectly. I know we are all human and we all have our moments and our times and we all get overstimulated and all of that. And I think something that came up to me when you were talking was just like, it's all just a season. And when you're in it, it feels, I don't know, heavy, tough, hard. I don't know what the exact word is, but maybe feels like it's going to last forever. And then you blink and it's like a different season. So, like, maybe right now, your daughter is at an age where she wants to be held all the time. And your son is at an age where he wants to play with you a lot and doesn't want to do things independent. And I feel like I'm in a similar stage with my two. So maybe I'm talking about myself, but I already know it's going to be like a few months down the line and something different is going to be happening. And even when things feel like more challenging, I really try to remember that this is going to be gone so soon. So I should actually see the positive in it. And the fact that my youngest wants to be held all the time, like just embrace the snuggles. I know it's like my arms are tired and sometimes I just want to be able to get stuff done quickly that I could do quicker if he would be playing by himself or not be wanting to be held, but he's not always going to want to be held and then I'm going to be sad. So let me embrace this. I 100% agree about community. Can you share about like how you had found your community? You found the school, you found a co-op. How did you find those things? And then are there any pieces of advice you would give to folks to foster those relationships? Because I think, at least for me, and maybe I think this is just a made up thing in my head, and many people, I believe, have this too. We're grown-ups, we can't make friends now. And I've heard other moms say this too. But what did you do to foster those relationships, build those relationships? Any advice or suggestions or stories or anything when it comes to that?
Yes. So finding friends, oh my gosh, I feel like it's still something that's like in progress for me, which is such a funny thing. Ugh, are we ever going to get past the will you be my friend kind of phase? I think it starts when our kids are little and it never ends, which is nice. I don't have a ton of friends around like our area. I should say I moved from the city up to like countryside right before I got pregnant with my son, separated there a little bit. We entered in a different season of like raising like a smaller child where our other friends maybe had like bigger friends or bigger kids. So yeah, I felt pretty isolated, which I think a lot of parents, especially moms, feel in like the early years of their having their babies. And for me, it was like the first years of my son's life, I was just like very in it. He's similar to your son, they're COVID babies, so we were pretty isolated anyways. But I was like, oh, we're so great. And then 2 years old came around and I was like, "Oh, we need to get into some activities." And we did a music class and a dance class. And I just wanted for him to start being around some peers. And I was, if I meet parents, great. And then it seemed every class I joined, other kids just happened to drop off. So he ended up being alone in the class or only with one friend. And that was just so funny. I'm like, okay, it's nice that he's getting this one-on-one time with this instructor and whatever, but it's not really serving my purpose of us getting out and about. So yeah, maybe about a year to 9 months ago, I was reaching out to a friend. She was gonna give me some hand-me-down clothes, and she was like, we were trying to coordinate that pickup, and she was like, do you want to meet up with our homeschool group? We're doing a field trip at a firehouse for the day. And I talked to the group, and they're like totally cool with you guys coming, and especially since it's your vibe too. And we joined up, and it was a really fun outing. Everyone was really nice and kind, and they talked after and they were like, hey, you're really close by to us. Do you want to just join? And I jumped at it. I was like, yes, please. I've been looking for a co-op and this is great. And the kids are closer in age, but there was some variety. So I was really excited about that. And then, so that's been going on since last fall for us, it's nice that like consistency, seeing more or less the same group of people on a weekly basis is so nice. And then I looked up if there was a Waldorf school near us, and lo and behold, there was one 25 minutes from us, which is super, super nice. They're few and far between, so I felt really lucky that I found that. And right before we started that, they were hosting a festival, and I attended that with my son. And just going to that festival, I was like, oh, this is like where I want to be. And it just felt really nice to be a part of. And then when we started the class, just from attending, it slowly but surely got more comfortable. Obviously, just in the environment, and signed up for future sessions, and it was really fun. And then you start seeing repeat parents, right? The kids, they tend to get along well enough. They're little, so it's like they're not making these crazy bonds or anything, but they're starting to get familiar with each other. And then you're having, even if it's a 5-10 minute conversation with someone, but if you're doing that consistently week by week, little friendships start to form. You start to relate to people and just share what's on your heart a little bit here and there. And you feel like, hey, that's my Friday mom friend or whatever. And that person's really kind to my child. And okay, I'm going to reflect there. And then at the end of our last session in the spring, I was like, I really want to keep this up. I feel like we're not going to see people for a few months. Some people are breaking off from this parent-child class. They're entering their children into preschool. We may not be seeing these friends that for the last few months we've been seeing on a consistent basis. And I hate to lose touch, because then you just know those friendships they'll just drift away. It's just what happens naturally if you don't see people. So I took it upon myself to gather everybody's number and start a text chain, and just to be like, hey, if anyone's going to the park, do you want to come meet up with us? Or if there's a bigger field trip type opportunity, almost like a little Waldorf co-op, very casual type reach out. And then through that, we've had a few group play dates and meetups, and then yeah, it's just friendships have formed. And there's a few moms that I've connected with on a deeper level than others. I think others are still like in the infancy of the friendship, but once you really have like-minded, kind people who you put yourself out there for, and you're like, I'm just being my natural self. Take me or leave me, I guess. It's starting from there. And when your kids are getting along, it just makes all the difference. You like to be around likable children, likable adults. And then as that goes, things are just bonding better and better. Yeah, so that's how I've been fostering these friendships. And we'll see how things go, but it's been really nice. And it's been fun for my son too. They've got these birthdays coming up and he's getting excited that we're gonna have a bunch of friends this year. And so am I. It makes me feel really nice to have a sense of community and just, I've got people I can talk to about what's going on or ideas or books or whatever, or just to know that, hey, I kind of want to get out. Do you guys want to get out? And everyone does. I should say everyone does. People jump at the opportunity to get together, and that always feels really nice. Yeah, friendships are good. And then randomly social media, like Erica, this is so nice to be able to talk with you and just to relate to what's going on. Our kids are similar ages, and I just feel like you put yourself out there and you never know who's going to bite.
Okay, we have talked about a lot of really great things, and we haven't really talked much about like organization and that type of thing. So, can you share how you stay organized as a homeschooling mom? Any tips, tricks, tools that you use, and what that looks like for you?
Okay, so suffice it to say, I don't have organization or storage tips. I'd love them. I'm thinking I need to thrift or look for some sort of hutch maybe for my house. Like I was saying, I only really have this Tupperware tin or a bin of like arts and crafts supplies, just getting messier and messier as we take things in and out. But I would like something that's a little bit more organized, easier for my son to even go and grab things as he'd like. And if you have any tips on how to store like maybe art projects or like painted pictures or something, I don't know how to save the keepsakes. We have some like handprint stuff up that's been up since Valentine's Day, like a heart tree and stuff out of my kids' handprints. I don't know what to do with them. I don't want them to get ruined, but maybe I need to get file folders or something like that. But yeah, I'm not the person to go to for organization tips right now.
Listen, it is totally okay. Like you said earlier in our conversation, you gotta pick what's going to be important to you. And if things like a messy kitchen table is messy and it's not the most important thing right now, like a messy craft bin, crafts are supposed to be messy, so it adds up. And I don't know if you ever heard the saying of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So like it could be that certain things are just not broken for you, your kids, your family, and so no need to make it better. And that being said, I definitely have tips because this is like my thing. For me, my environment really impacts how I feel and show up, and so I am constantly trying to make things neater, tidier, more organized because it impacts me. So that's why it's important to me. That's not for everyone. So let's talk about craft bin. So craft bin, I totally think a bin is fine, but if it feels like it's getting messier and messier, what I have is it's from the Container Store, but it can be, and it probably makes more sense for it to be like one of those like cheaper plastic drawers where it's like a series of 5 drawers and each drawer has its thing. So for us, our bottom drawer is just like paper and just thrown in there. And some of it is scrap paper, some of it is fresh paper, but it's like construction paper, plain white paper, watercolor paper, like whatever the color the paper is just thrown in there. The next drawer is it paint supplies? So things like the actual paints, the paintbrushes, dabbers, like that type of thing. The next drawer is like markers and crayons. And then the top drawer is like miscellaneous. So maybe you turn your one bin into just like a little bit more organized with drawers so that there's different places for different things for the crafts. And then on top of that, we have like this thing I bought from Lakeshore Learning that has all the random stuff like puffies. What are those things called? Feathers, sparkly little things, random stuff to craft. So that's one idea. And then in terms of storing stuff, so I definitely think display. The second thing I recommend is what, like you said, a file folder, but like a hanging folder bin. So you get a pretty inexpensive bin that you can buy hanging folders. And so you put a hanging folder and you can organize it by year. So then anything that's a keepsake from that school year, you put in that folder.
You also could put folders within the folder. So you could do like a year and then content area. So if they made a really cool math project and you want to keep that, you put it in there. Now, obviously, those bins only really, you can get them where I think it's like 11 by 18 inches. So it's like a little bit longer. So you can get bins that are longer or ones that are typical 8 by 11 paper size. And so what my third recommendation for keeping stuff like this is pictures. Not everything will fit into a hanging folder, and let's be honest, like some stuff fades over time, which is really sad. Taking pictures of things and keep a digital portfolio, so then at minimum you can go back and look at the pictures of stuff that like either won't fit in the bin or you just don't want to keep but you don't want to forget about it. You can do that. And then if there's stuff that's too big and you're just like, I can't let go of it, then having a bigger, but this is going to sound crazy. It's going to say bigger but smaller. But a bin that can hold bigger size paper but maybe is like short, so it's not taking up a lot of room in your house. It can go on like a closet shelf in their room or something like that, to put those types of things. So hopefully that helps. But I appreciate you just being like, I'm not the person to ask, but that's how I think through like the keepsakes. And you know what, for homeschoolers, I feel like that's important, because one thing we do miss out on that kind of makes me sad is you don't get sent home the like thing from the teacher being like, here's work that your child did. Like, you're the teacher, so you were there. So you got to send stuff home to yourself, and those bins and places, and like even the digital portfolio is like your own little keepsake. Put the lid on, a bow on it, and look back at it years later or weeks later or months later. All right, Megan, we've talked about so much and I so appreciate you. I'm going to start wrapping up this portion of the conversation, but I want to first allow you to share any last pieces of information, tips, advice, anything we didn't get to talk about that you hoped we would talk about. I'm going to turn it over to you for that, and then we'll close out.
No, that is wonderful advice. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I totally know what you mean by like the bigger but smaller. Again, it's like the kind of thing that you don't think about until you say it out loud. God bless you. Until you say it out loud to someone and you're like, oh yes, you know exactly what I'm looking for. Oh, I'm talking with you. I'll be done in just a moment. Who is she's a new friend who also does homeschooling with her children. It is a girl. Yes, a girl. You know, like I have it in my mind, like there's got to be some way to organize these things, and you're like, yeah, something with drawers to pull out. So thank you. Yeah. Obviously, I'm in the thick of my day right now. I'm wrapping things up. But I guess the only thing I wanted to just, start with is like, I think that there's so much defense that has to come out, especially like when you're newer, someone like me who's really newer into homeschooling, and I'm like seeking so much validation from family and friends and anyone I speak to. I want to share, hey, I'm going to homeschool, I'm homeschooling. And then I want to hear, great, that's amazing, I can't believe it. And so many times I'm not getting a ton of backlash, but I'm getting a lot of silence. Like no one wants to say the wrong thing or the offensive thing, but clearly they don't agree with the approach, or they're taking some sort of personal, like, personal take on it, like, oh, well, what's wrong with me because I'm not doing that? Or do you think there's something wrong with me? And I just really appreciate you reaching out to people like me, these strangers, to have these conversations, because, so many times I think when we're in the conversation, it's a matter of defense. And like, oh, here's my list of reasons why we're doing this. I want you to feel good about it. I want to feel good about it. And, we can talk about like the hard stuff and the hard reasons why, but so much of it is like, hey, we're just trying to do the best for our kids and figure out ways to do that and build a community, because homeschoolers are few and far between. Even though the numbers are growing, like that doesn't mean an automatic community for that. So I just really appreciate it, and yeah, I hope that conversations like these are encouraging for people who are wanting to start out or just go for it, because you will feel alone until you put yourself out there and then all of a sudden you realize, there's so many people that are willing to share and help. And everyone's in it with parenthood, and it's not just schooling, it's parenting, right? So I appreciate you, and thank you so much for talking with me about all of this. I'll exchange more like personal details with you later. If you're ever in like our area, we'd love to meet up and chat further and get our kids together. Yeah.
OMG, so cute. And yes, a meetup is definitely on the table. We definitely need to chat further. Thank you so much for the last piece of advice and thoughts, because it's real. And I have decided that I will share about this with people who are going to cheer me on and who are going to give me that, oh my God, that's so great. And maybe that's me being delusional, but I just want to protect my own peace, and I want to have all positivity surrounding our homeschooling decision. And because it's a decision you make every single year, every single month, week, day. Like, honestly, you could put your child in traditional school any day of the week. So you constantly are making that decision, and I want nothing but positivity. So if that resonates with anyone, like, you don't have to talk to anyone about it. And you can choose who you talk about it. And if you don't have the people in person in your life who will cheer you on and be super excited, there's so many people on the internet. And it's 2025, so it's no longer weird to be like on the internet. There's people. There are so many communities. And I hope that you know, literally Megan's like, you're talking to strangers. Like, I am like talking to strangers, and not because I feel like this is how relationships start, right? You talk to each other and you share things about yourself and you give each other advice and you cheer each other on. And so that is available to everyone. And so I appreciate you, Megan. I am so excited to stay in touch and hear about your homeschool journey as it continues. And the last thing, let us know where folks can find you, if there's anything that you have going on that you want them to look out for, and then we'll be done. Thanks so much.
Thank you again so much. This has been really fun, and I feel really cool about it. Yeah, I'm so happy that we connected. I'm this like little nobody, this little Midwestern nobody who's just taking care of her two kids. And I'm like, I don't know if anything that I say would resonate with anyone else, but I know that I've been seeking community. So this has been really nice and refreshing. I don't know where you can find me. I guess I'm on TikTok at Megan Reads a Bunch. I just share like the stories that we read together as a family, or books we get from the library and stuff. Yeah, that would be fun to connect with anybody there. Or if anyone has questions about, I guess, what we do on a daily basis. We're all just surviving. But thank you so much, Erica. We'll talk very soon. Oh, and let me know whenever you think this might air, how I can find it or something. Be hopeful that if I share this with my family, they'll get a better insight and understanding of like why we're choosing to homeschool our children. Thank you. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks again, Megan. And I look forward to staying in touch. Yeah. Bye.